Let us wait for a couple of minutes.
Let's.
Tom, should we go ahead or should we wait for Warren?
If we have quorum, we should probably go ahead,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, there's only one pass, so do we? I guess Lawrence, we can wait a couple more minutes. We'll wait till 4:03 or 4:04, and then get her started.
Yeah.
It's such a nice day out there today. It's AFRC versus the weather. Oh, you're on mute there, Carrie.
So that really shouldn't be a choice or a difficult choice.
That's right. Oh, here's Brenda. Awesome.
Yay.
Sorry, little technical thing.
Hey,
How are
Brenda.
you? How is everyone?
Great.
We are waiting for Warren.
Okay. So Tom, what little cubicle are you in today?
I'm in the office with the hole in the wall.
Ah, is that what that little dark spot is?
Yes,
So
which
you-
Brad can't seem to get fixed.
So we call it the hole in the wall, do we?
Yeah.
Of course, you know what you could do to drive everyone crazy is go get some spatula and some polyfilling, and then the the union folks will be upset, then the maintenance guys will be upset, right?
Yeah,
Do
well,
that.
you need
That's
to
the
talk
cable
to.
TV hookup for when Tom moves out and I order the 85-inch TV.
Yes, yes. They're 85 inches now, are they? Gosh, how do you even lift it? How do you even deliver it?
And they're that thin or less.
Yeah.
Incredible. All right, Warren, Lawrence, I think we can get going.
Okay. Let's start then. Good afternoon and welcome to this virtual meeting of the Audit, Finance and Risk Committee of the Toronto Seniors Housing Corporation, which is being live streamed. In addition to the participating board members and the leadership team, I am pleased to welcome our virtual audience and thank you for joining us. I want to thank the leadership team for the preparation of the materials brought forward for today's meeting. Today, we will be reviewing the 2023 Q1 financial results and the reconciliation with the TCHC books of account. We will also have an update on the strategic financial sustainability planning. Let us begin with the land and African ancestral acknowledgement. As a committee of a City of Toronto corporation, we honor the land we are on, which has been the site of human activity since time immemorial. It is traditional territories of the Huron-Wendat, Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and most recently, the Mississaugas of the Credit River First Nations. Ontario is covered by 46 treaties and other agreements and is home to many Indigenous nations from across Turtle Island, including the Inuit and the Métis. The committee also acknowledges that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit, and the Williams Treaties signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. These treaties and other agreements, including the One Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant, are agreements to peaceably share and care for the land and its resources. Other Indigenous nations, Europeans, and newcomers were invited into this covenant in the spirit of respect, peace, and friendship. We are mindful of broken covenants, and we strive to make this right with the land and with each other. We are all treaty people. Many of us have come here as settlers, immigrants, and newcomers in this generation or generations past. We would also like to acknowledge those who came here forcibly, particularly as a result of the transatlantic slave trade. Therefore, we honor and pay tribute to the ancestors of African origin and descent. Next is item 3, that's the approval of the public meeting agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Just a follow-up question, where would I ask that?
That was item number 3 on the agenda on your closed meeting.
Closed meeting, okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I ask it there, not here.
Warren is in. Fareed, welcome. So if there are no changes to the public agenda, I need a motion to approve it. Need a mover and a seconder.
I second, Mr. Chair.
Moved by
Brenda.
Brenda. Moved by Brenda and seconded by Warren.
Oh, actually, I shouldn't do that. I'm not a member.
I was wondering why you're here.
Yeah, no, I just had some questions, that's why.
Lawrence and I and Fareed are the members.
That's right, that's right.
Yeah, okay.
I don't, Mr. Chair, I'm just venting, but it seems every senior housing meeting, I have difficulty getting in. Gee, it just drives me up a wall. I don't know.
What, technical problem?
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
the calendar invite comes up at about 5 to 4, 10 to 4, and I link it on, and I'm sitting there by myself looking at my beautiful picture and saying, where is everybody? And then
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think the challenge, Warren, is that you're probably using the old calendar invite, the one that was sent by, you need to use the one that was sent by Tina. So I don't know how you rectify that. Maybe what you should do is delete all the invites that you have, and maybe Tina, you can resend it to him. That might help.
Yeah, we could do that.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next is item number 4. That's a conflict of interest. Does any member any conflict? Having heard none, let us move to the next item. That's item number 5, approval of the AFRC public minutes of the meeting held on March 22nd.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Need a seconder? Seconded by Fareed.
Second.
Fareed or Lawrence?
Fareed seconded it. Okay, let's move to the next item. That's item number 6. That's the approval of the AFRC closed session meeting held on March 22nd.
So moved.
So I beg to second.
Seconded by Fareed. Let's go to item number 7. That's a review of action items. As far as I know, all action items have been actioned. So if there are no comments, we can move to the next item. That's the item number 8, CEO update. Tom.
But through the chair to the committee, and good afternoon, everyone. And I do have an update within the closed session, but for the public session, I have one item just to keep the board updated on the board, the remuneration. And this really, we're just been kind of reviewing the process as a result of a couple of requests around greater clarification around the itemization of the payment and what the board members were being paid for.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
we have essentially kind of relooked at the practice, the policy, reflecting on the city and with the TCHC, and then what we could do to also, you know, kind of improve the process. And so that's I just want to let the board know that that is currently in the works, and we'll be bringing a draft forward for the next meeting. And also just looking at you know, for the board members, Vince has created a very kind of simple template where the board members would enter the meetings that they attended that month, and then it gets submitted, and then helps to kind of confirm it and advise the process. So that form would be one element, and then just clearly articulating, and this would be also helpful for new board members coming on, what members would be paid for, remunerated for, and then just ensuring that the board is comfortable with the itemization of the payment. So that's in the works right now, and wanted to inform the group of that. Thank you.
Brenda?
What was the practice in the past? Who reported on the board attendance, and who did they report to? The payroll department, or?
I'm good. Through the chair, I'll let Vince answer that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find my my hand there. Sorry. Yeah. So in the past, we would get the report from the EAs of both the operations and also the CEO, and then from there we essentially submit that information to payroll, and payroll remunerated the board members that attended. I know that through that process there were a number of probably meetings missed. Maybe through the working groups and such. And so we know that there were a few of them that could have been included. So we have gone back and reviewed, and certainly there will probably be a bunch in January, February, and March that we have not compensated correctly. So we will look into that and retroactively make that adjustment in the upcoming period.
Warren? Sorry, Farid?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair, and I agree with the approach outlined by the CEO. I think members are better served if they are obligated to indicate which meetings they attend. So the onus, I think, should be on the member, and then even if there is an audit, then that member can validate their attendance. I think that also makes it clear as to what meetings members are eligible for, because right now, the way the system operates is that you see the deposit, but there is no accountability in terms of what that money and what that payment is for. So I think putting the onus on the member to say, I attended 3 meetings this month, and here's a list of that meeting, there can be some clarity and some transparency being brought to the process. So I think you're on the right track, and I appreciate you kind of putting some attention to this and getting it sorted out.
Thanks, Farid. Carrie?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Thank you. Oh, no, thank you. The sort of statement that you're preparing, Vince, will that include what the specific deductions have been? Because that's been kind of curious too, especially for those of us who have said, you know, we don't require any, or we require this, and it's been a little confusing. Is that part of your?
Yeah, so just to the chair, from a deduction standpoint, are you referring to the tax component deduction, or
Tax, CPP, whatever is coming?
Yeah, so typically through the chair, we would provide at the beginning of the year or from prior year some sort of like a T1A or T10 relating to the deduction. But if it hasn't come through, then we certainly would ask payroll to submit that to you. So in case that there is any sort of deductions or remittance that needs to be excluded, we will certainly provide that, and therefore we will not deduct incorrectly in this case here. So I will certainly get payroll to provide to you and the rest of the board members for the updated sheet as well, and for you to complete in the event that there's any other deductions there. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you for bringing
thank you,
that.
Vince.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Brenda?
So if we have questions, who is payroll? Is it Toronto Seniors Housing Payroll? And we've never been given a contact name or number.
Yeah.
If we did have a question. So I need to get something from payroll. So who do I contact for
Yeah.
that?
So through the chair, right now we have a contact. Her name is Adriana. Adriana is through Toronto Community Housing. So as part of our service delivery agreement, they provide the service with us. But certainly I will send that information over to you, Brenda, and
Thank you.
you can contact her directly there.
Oh, good. So I can just go directly to her then.
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you, Vince.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Let's move to the next item. That's item number 9. That's a Q1 2023 financial results. Vince.
Thank you through the chair. Today I would like to present to you the financial result for the first 3 months of 2023, attached on page number 7 of the public document. You will find the statement of operations, which is sort of the income statement there. And through March 31st of 2023, TSHC has incurred operating expenses of $10,606,403 revenue, and revenue amounted to $10,652,684, composed of $1.296 million from the City of Toronto and $9.282 million from TCHC through the transition agreement. Along with that as well, there was a $74,669 interest income earned on the bank balances, resulting in a surplus of $46,281 for the first 3 months of this year. Expenses incurred were for all staff compensations and benefits, TSHC lead staff consultants, legal services, and other third-party vendors, insurance and other miscellaneous costs, and shared services paid to TCHC per the service delivery agreement. The city grant is recognized at $1.296 million. This is an unbudgeted and a carry forward deferred grant from the prior year. The positive variance is a result of this city deferred grant. Without the deferred grant, TSHC's financial position would have been unfavorable for the first 3 months of the year. The shortfall in the first quarter will balance out by the end of the year. If you go through the remaining expenses, higher expenses in salaries and benefits of $202,000 is a result of the impact of the average of a 2.5% merit increase, which was not included in the original budget, one-time payout of unused vacation from prior years at the beginning of the year, and also salary adjustment due to job evaluations. Along with the increase as well, there was also the professional services, which was also higher by $177,553 to fill vacant positions and project requirements due to the late hiring of corporate positions there. The above increases in expenses are offset by temporary lower expenditures in tenant translation, tenant engagement, training and development, office expenses, and other operating costs. So for the revenue recognition for corporate and operations, expenses are recognized when expenditures have incurred. The unrecognized revenue is on the balance sheet account on attachment number 2, and under deferred city grant corporate expenses, and also under deferred revenue from TCHC on the operations side. For the first 3 months, there was no deferred revenue from TCHC, as all of the expenses were used up, and there were no expenses advanced from TCHC by $28,388. If you look at the next attachment number 2, included the statement of financial positions, and in here the cash balance as of the end of March is $4.626 million, accounts receivable of $341,000, due from TCHC $1.2 million, prepaid expenses mainly on the on insurance $437,000, long-term due from TCHC of $4.180 million, and also we've capitalized item, we have some fixed asset equipment of $25,000, and then in terms of the accounts payable, there was about $4.4 million included in the accounts payable section, and the remaining balance on the deferred city grant funding amounted to $2.021 million. And then the employee benefits, which is the post-retirement benefits, is $4.174 million. All of this information is available on page 9 of 15 in the public documentation. Along with that, I maybe just want to bring up on the accounts payable balance of the $4 million mentioned earlier. The majority of that is on the payroll and pensions related. There were some items relating to the HST payable of $402,000, and then also some interim staff, seconded employees, and vendor payables, which amounted to $339,000. And then we also have the surplus at the end of 2022 payable to TCHC, which is $1.631 million, which will sit there until we finalize with the TCHC in the coming months. And that is the item number 9 of the Q1 financial result. Are there any questions?
Brenda.
Thank you. Vincent, please just clarify for me. We have revenue from the rents, right? And we have a city contribution. Now, we refer here to the deferred grant, and I assume that's because we are in this transition state for a while. But the city money we get, is it a grant? Is it based on the number of people? How does the city money come?
Through the chair. So the amount of the grant we received last year, as you recall, we received $7.6 million last year. Out of that $7.6 million, not all of it was used up at the end of the year. I believe it was $4.8 million was used up, and there was still a $3.1 million carry forward from the city.
Right.
We've discussed with the city that this amount will be used up in 2023, and we are expected or projected to use it up by September of this year. So that alone is the separate sort of advance, if you want to call it, from prior year that was not used up.
Right.
We're expecting to use it up this year. So hopefully that answers your question relating to the city deferred grant component. On
The
the
deferred, yeah.
yeah,
Well, what's the basis of the city grant? Is it per capita, per diem, per person? Like what the money they give us is based
yeah. So last year,
just on the difference between the revenue we get from rent and they pay the difference, or is it based on a formula of some sort?
so through the chair, last year there was a one-time special transition agreement between the city and TSHC, and I wasn't privy in terms of how that information was provided, but we did provide to them at the time a projected headcount and also operational costs at the second half of 2022, and they provided us with the overall funding. With respect to, is there a percentage of that subsidy from last year? Since it was a transition year, it wasn't done in that appropriate manner in a sense.
Yeah.
We basically provide them with our projection in terms of what the requirements. And fortunately, we didn't use up a lot of the stuff. As you recall, there were
Right.
20 corporate positions that were supposed to be hired.
Right. I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that didn't go through. So therefore, there was a substantial savings there. And of course, also with the budget impasse there at late of 2022,
Yeah.
we also had to hold off some of that. So that explains a bit of that, but also the fact that we had to sort of slow down in terms of the hiring process on the corporate positions. And so that has really resulted in sort of delay in recognizing, and as a result, there's no expenses that was expensed at the end of last year. So we defer that over to 2023 instead.
Okay. It's too much information you give me. I just want to know how the city money, what's it based on? It's just, if we submit a budget of $100 and we get 75 from rent, the city contribution is the $25 difference. It's just based on the budget. It's not based on some sort of calculation by number of tenants or number of units. I mean, what's the city grant based on?
Yeah.
Just the deficit, the difference covered in our budget?
Yeah, so I'll just answer that quickly through the chair. There is a formula that the city provide to us from a subsidy component, and that subsidy is very similar to what you described there, whatever we receive in terms of revenue, and then the remaining shortfall,
Right.
the city would subsidize that piece. In 2022, that operation, that was slightly different in that
Yeah,
capacity.
I
We
understand
only,
that.
yeah. So for moving forward, we did have conversations with the city recently in terms of, how do we ensure that the funding and the requirement on the subsidy component aligns with the appropriate cost wise. And so myself, along with the city and also with TCHC, we will have ongoing the conversations leading up to the sort of subsidy piece of it. But that is sort of that supposedly should be what is the case, but I think from a operational wise in 2022 it wasn't. It was more or less on the funding on the transition that
Yeah,
happened.
yeah.
Yeah.
So is it something we have to negotiate and fight every year, or is it just a given that if there's a shortfall, the city pays the shortfall? I'm still just not clear on this relationship and how it's done.
Through the chair to Brenda. So this grant, this deferred grant, it was one time. It
Yeah,
was
I
one time based
understand
on.
that.
So
I
that
mean,
was
going
based.
ahead,
Okay,
going
so
ahead,
moving ahead. So then on an annual basis,
right?
there is the rent that we receive from the tenants, and then to balance, essentially, I'll make it simple, to balance a budget, there's a subsidy that is given
Yes,
by the city. And
right.
that subsidy, there ideally it was at one point supposed to be the rent and subsidy would add up to 75% of the average market rent. That per se hasn't been achieved, so that subsidy amount does get adjusted each year. And for example, for 2023 budget, based on the shortfall in the budget, then the subsidy was increased to help to fill that gap. So ideally, there can be a formula around subsidy, but it does vary from year to year based on pressures within the organization.
So that subsidy you're saying is based on this formula of market rent, 75%.
Yes.
So market,
That's that.
that's the
Yes,
theory. That's the theory.
that's the theory.
Yes, I understand. And then obviously the reality is there's some sort of negotiating to
Yep.
and froing,
So
and so there's
there's-
no certainty every year. Every year we have no
it can
certainty
vary.
that will. Well, what sort of cockamamie? Okay. All
Well,
right.
no, there is a degree of certainty, Brenda. So
Yeah,
to the
okay.
extent that, so if I'll just use an example. Your average market rent is $1,000 on that
Yeah.
apartment. The tenant is able to pay. The tenant is able to pay 30% of their income. Let's say it ends up to be $250. The subsidy is $750. So your
Right.
subsidy has to fluctuate more or less from year to year. There's a standard theory formula, but
Yeah.
it does have to vary on year to year
Yes.
based on the tenant's abilities to pay, which can fluctuate.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
thanks.
right. Thank you.
Councillor Kusanti.
Thank you, Lawrence. Here, let me just
Where is he?
on here.
Oh, there. Oh, there.
There we go. Okay. Yeah. So I'll just, my question is with reference to the letter of guarantee, the City of Toronto. It says here that there's been discussions ongoing since 2022 and a request to obtain this letter of guarantee. And maybe the question is for you, Vince. How does that letter work? Is that guarantee letter comes from the city guaranteeing Toronto seniors housing on commitments we make, financial commitments, or it's just like a line of credit? What is this?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so through the chair, very good question, Councillor. Yes, so the letter of guarantee is essentially when we request for a line of credit with the bank, the letter of guarantee is one of the requirements from the city. So, and one of the requirements from the city is also that we need to provide to them a cash flow projection. So at the end of last year of 2022, we did provide that information to our representative at the city. And at the time they said there was some sufficient funds in there, and then therefore we did not have to repay the $3 million. And thus we did not have to sort of proceed with getting that letter of credit. But it is something that we are still working with right now to get that in place in order to secure a line of credit with RBC, and we're looking to do that in the coming months at this point yet.
We currently have a line of credit, or we don't have a line of credit?
We don't have a line of credit, and one of the requirements is that we need to get the letter of guarantee from the city
Before
in
we
order to
qualify.
correct.
I get it, because on our own, we don't qualify for a line of credit based on the financial statements as they currently are.
Correct.
Okay. And when do you expect we'll have this guarantee from the city to enable us, or do we even need it at the moment?
Well, I think right now, based on our projection wise, we will be at a cash, low cash position. And we are in conversations with Tom and the board just to get some additional information. But definitely, I think come August, September of this year, we will be at a low position. That being said as well, we are in conversations with TCHC as well, because again, as you recall, this is a balanced budget from 2023, and they were supposed to, pull from the reserve to support and funding as the very last budget conversation. And so certainly we can discuss a bit more in the in-camera component of it. But there is something that we will be discussing further with TCHC on this to get the additional funds to run past August.
Okay, yeah, I'd be interested in learning more about that. All right, thank you, Vince. That's fine.
Okay.
Audit?
Yeah, thanks. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but this is something that we've been dealing with, it is a perennial issue. And I was wondering, why can't we get some kind of a standard agreement with the city to facilitate this? I don't think the board, because I mean, this
This has been 2 years. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think what we need to do is have some kind of protocol. Vince, maybe you and Tom can work on this, because the city is our sole shareholder, and for this request to be coming to us on an annual basis, I think it should be a matter of routine, where we get to a certain threshold by way of our bank balance, and then the city guarantee should kick in. I don't think we should go cap in hand every single time to get the city to give us letter of credit, because we operate at their behest, and I think this kind of a request should be more of a routine rather than spending so much time talking through it every year.
Reid, you made a good point, and I agree with that. And let me know if there's any way I can assist as well. When we get to that.
Great, thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Vince, I have a question for you. What will happen in Q2? Will we have surplus, or our expenses will be more than our revenue? Because we don't have this City of Toronto grant which we brought forward, but we have this deferred grant.
Yeah, so through the chair, there is a $2 million deferred grant that will be used up in the second quarter. I would presume that we'll probably be using up another $1.3 to $1.5 million in the second quarter, and then there might be some fuel left by the third quarter. But we are working through our forecast right now, and we do anticipate that there will be some overages, but also some deficits in other areas. So right now we are communicating and working with the team, and we did our first draft of the forecast. That gives us a bit more clear pictures in terms of where we will land. But definitely we'll share that in the next meeting. I just felt that, just given the timeline, it would have been very difficult to get everything through, for the sort of the first 4 months of this year. But definitely we'll give you more update in the coming periods to outline sort of the opportunities, and also where the challenges might lie as well in terms of the financial aspect of it.
Okay, thanks, Vince.
Yeah.
Any more questions or comments? Okay, in that case, let's move to item number 10. That's the financial update. Again, Vince.
Thank you, and through the chair, for the financial updates. They're just only the two item. One item, if of course, has been covered. The second item is on the insurance renewal. There was an all-day session that I've attended recently, and as part of that meeting, they did provide us with a glimpse in terms of the renewal for 2023-24 insurance renewal, and their expectation that there will be a 15 to 20% increase on the overall premium. I just would like to sort of inform the board and the committee that information will be coming forward in late September, and an approval will be required by the TSHC board by November meeting. Similar to last year, it is a very tight timeline as well. As you recall, our last meeting happened in late November, and we had to get the approval in there, and the expectation it will be similar to that for this year. And as soon as information is available, I will be sending that over to the board chair on the committee, and then we will circulate that information out as we get closer towards the board meet, the FRC and board meeting as well. And the second item, of course, is the letter of guarantee, which we discussed already at this point, and I think those are the 2 points I have for the financial updates for now. Number 10.
Thanks, Vince. Any questions for Vince? Brenda?
Given that the insurance cost was much higher than we were projecting, I think we got into quite a bit of an expenditure last year. Have we budgeted for a projected increase of 15 to 20% going forward? Or is this going to be another unexpected?
Through the chair, typically for insurances over the past 3 years has been in between 3 to 8%. Last year's renewal was about 9%. Certainly, having 15 to 20% is on the upper end of the renewal, but the conditions in terms of the climate, but also the claimants and the reserves, has caused it to be at a very tight situation for the insurance company. But typically, we don't project or we don't budget that high of an increase year over year.
Yeah.
And certainly this would probably be, I would say, I wouldn't say anomaly, but hopefully it will be a one-off year. But it is much higher than we anticipate it to be, certainly.
Yeah. And that insurance, we get it through this Housing Services Corporation. We have no choice. That's where we have to get it from.
Correct.
Okay.
Sure. Yes, correct.
And is there coverage in that insurance for cyber security risks or problems or any costs associated with it? We had a ransomware attack or something like that.
Yeah. So through the chair, yes, we do have that coverage.
Coverage?
Coverage with TCHC, because again, the cyber component, it covers through, and every year we do a joint survey with HSC, and therefore the coverage is through them, and it is covered up to a certain dollar amount. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
So through the chair to the committee, I would just like to comment that the insurance is going to be an increasing risk and vulnerability for all housing providers.
Yeah.
At a recent Housing Services Committee meeting that I attended, there are housing providers where they cannot even get insurance at this point in time.
Wow.
And so even HSC is having incredible kind of difficulties keeping the rates at a manageable level. And so I do think, and one of the reasons I asked Vince to put this on as an update is just to keep the board aware that this is a very kind of high risk vulnerability for us moving forward, as it is for all housing providers. So just it's for awareness.
Councillor, do you have a question, Councillor Griffin?
No, I think in part Brenda asked that, it sounds like we're locked into this Housing Services Corporation, and I guess I would just ask, why is this some kind of policy or bylaw? Like, why are we stuck with them, and why can't we go out to tender? Maybe we could save some money and get better.
Yeah.
Through the chair to the councillor. So from my participation with HSC, we have gotten very good competitive rates in the past. And as I was saying, there are very few insurance companies that will now insure insure housing, and the fact that housing services corporations they represent numerous, so the Ottawa Community Housing, ourselves, all the larger providers are already included as part of the coverage, and so our rates would be much higher if we were to go alone. So I mean, HSC is right now kind of our best game in the town for even getting coverage. It's quite severe.
Oh, that's fine, Tom. I understand, but are we checking the market to make sure we keep them honest and moving
Yes.
forward from time to time? Because I'd hate to see at some point that we find out that, oh goodness, we may have been, look, I don't know what we're paying currently, but we could have saved 20%.
160.
Right.
Sorry,
Yeah.
how much was that? I missed it. 400 and
We
400
paid 60,000 for insurance.
a month?
No, a year.
No.
Am I right on that? Or approximately that?
So,
Vince, am I right
so
there?
yeah, so through the chair, yeah, it's about $60,000 per month, which comes out to about 650. Yeah.
Wow.
And of course, we cover the liability component of it as well. And so certainly the insurance piece of it is one of the big item on our expense item. But certainly is not typically, if you were to have it with any other organization, you also have the service for this part of the insurance as well. So through the chair, it is approximately $60,000 per month, and for the year itself, we budgeted about $650,000 from last year.
Wow, that's one
That's-
big chunk.
So,
Anyway,
so that's $750,000 we're paying.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm.
For insurance.
Massive.
Wow.
I don't know. And we're just talking the seniors, the 83 buildings we have, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
Mm. Yeah, no, I would like to know if there's some comparison we can get just to see. And I know, Tom, you said this is it, but just so this committee could understand, what would the private sector come in at? Has that been done at all in the last, well, mind you, we've only been around as a corporation for 18 months. So any suggestion there, Tom? Do you think we can have a look moving forward on what another competitive bid could look like?
Through the chair, we to the council, we could take a look. We'll take a look. I just don't know where we're going to look.
Yeah, there's not many places that would provide it.
There's
totally.
housing providers who can't even get insurance as a result of the incident. So, but we can take a look.
Is TCHC the other end, also with the same organization?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
All right.
Vince?
Yeah, so through the chair, yeah, correct. We would have to also consult with TCHC as well, because they have some component of that insurance piece of it. So if we were to go to the market, we would have to also provide all those information, and again, also TCHC would also have to be in compliance as well to go to that route as well.
And Vince, what about the city of Toronto and their insurance policy? They likely deal with various diverse number of people to deal with all of their real estate holdings and everything.
Yeah, we can certainly look at that as well. I mean, I will get our contact at City of Toronto and see if there's something, but based on our understanding is that because we're a separate organization, we will need to have separate insurance. So therefore, that's the requirement. But certainly, if we can piggyback from City of Toronto, we can certainly do that. But I think to Tom's point earlier on, this is a consortium of all the housing sectors in Ontario. So HFC has a sort of portfolio of, in this case, you're about a good 20 to 30 communities and housing. So definitely to go out on our own and get this separate quote, I would anticipate that it will be much, much more than what we currently could get through this consortium.
Yeah, fair enough. So piggybacking on City of Toronto could be the option, because we're already doing business with them. So, or they're doing business with a number of insurance companies likely. So, let's have a look anyway, if we could, and then we chat more about this later on. Okay.
Audit?
Yeah, thanks. I don't want to belabor the point, but I also don't want staff to be chasing something that doesn't exist. The HSC was set up. The HSC was set up to support housing corporation across the province and to help them with clustering these insurance services and other services to help reduce cost. So I think what you're getting with the HSC is the best bang for the buck. It's always good to look outside of that, but I doubt whether we'll find anything that is less than what we're paying now, because this cooperation was set up specifically to assist housing corporations across the province deal with some common procurement issues, and the insurance is one of them.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you.
So they do more than just insurance. They also would amalgamate services in other areas for housing providers.
They could.
I don't even know who Housing Services Corporation is. Is that
It's a whole different discussion.
yes, I can imagine.
So,
Yeah.
through the chair, I can send a link to Housing Services Corporation, so you can just read more about them. And an example of another is gas.
Yes.
Natural gas is
Yes.
just
It's
and
a
that is,
huge cost. Yeah. And we had a big increase this year in the gas, didn't we?
If you don't have any further questions or comments, it's time for us to move into closed session. I need a motion, a mover and a seconder. Moved by Fareed. Yeah, Warren seconded. Yeah. Warren, would you like to second?
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah, fine. Okay. Let's give a few more minutes.